So we came for the Holocaust Remembrance Day. We were invited by Isaac Asa for the mural that is being exposed, the 3,500 years of the Jewish history, and it's going to be in Ben Gurion Airport. So that was the first reason to come, but obviously also to visit the project that we are investing in especially United Jewish education and the leadership of the community. And amazing. It's short, intense, and amazing. I summarized it by saying that the Jewish community in Mexico is a small Jewish empire. When you see the data, more than 90% of the kids that goes to Jewish school, when you see the number of volunteers in the community, the community that is so involved, engaged, committed for Jewish life, for Zionism, when you see the independent love to the state of Israel, to Eretz Israel, to Am Israel, this is something that you don't see in every community. It is different from what you see in other communities, and the lack of cynicism is also something that is unique from what I saw here in Mexico. So the judicial reform that was launched about 2 months ago, I think it is very, very important, a reform that needs to take place. Obviously, it's far better if we can get a wider consensus, and so it will be more calm. And you see in polls that the public in Israel is looking for consensus, is looking for a compromise. But he also understands the need, the necessity of this judicial reform. Today, we have three authorities. We have the government, we have the Knesset, the legislative authority, and the Supreme Court, and the rest. And today, the Supreme Court hold too much power, and there is no balance. Just one example. Last year, the Ministry of Education, Ms. Shasha Biton, wanted to cancel the Pras Israel, the Israel Award, what was supposed to go to Professor Goldreich, who is a supporter of the BDS. She said there is no reason to give an award to a professor that thinks that we need to boycott the state of Israel. Makes sense. But the Supreme Court forced her to bring the award to Professor Goldreich. So the Minister of Education doesn't even have the authority to decide who's going to get the award because of the Supreme Court. This is small example that you can catch the issue very fast. But it's with far more serious issues. For instance, immigration policy, okay? The government want to set a specific policy. Supreme Court will go against it and force his own policy on the government. Attorney advisor in Israel, they have the last word, not the government, not the prime minister. It's insane. You don't have it in any other state. And therefore, the reform is important, and I hope we'll get a consensus, and we'll have it eventually. So it's quite different. First of all, the position is different. Being a Knesset member is far more about legislation, and it's have a wide variety of fields that you can legislate. And as a minister, you are far more focused on very specific missions, unlike a Knesset member. Second of all, obviously when you are a rebellion Knesset member, you have more attention, public attention, but that's absolutely normal. We're on the job. We have missions, we work, and I'm very happy with this position. Well, so just in the past week, we had anti-Semite incident in Poland, where a puppet of a Jew it was written Judah was set on fire, and so we needed to address the Poland ambassador, who responded seriously. There was an incident in Athens in a basketball match where they burned the Israeli flag, throw stones upon the Israeli fans of Hapoel. And we also addressed this incident, and fortunately FIBA took serious steps, banned them for bringing their audience, and also set a fee that they needed to pay. We had Francesca Albanese saying that the state of Israel doesn't have the right to protect its citizens in Judea and Samaria, and many other incidents that are taking place every week. We are constantly fighting. The philosophy says there is no single anti-Semite event that we will remain silent. There is no silence. We're going to fight, name, shame each and every group or individual that will attack the Jewish people for being Jews, or even if it's an attack on the Jewish collective identity, the Zionist movement and the state of Israel. And by the way, most of the incidents are what we call new anti-Semitism, BDS, and it goes against the state of Israel, Zionism, but many times those who pay the price, it's not the state of Israel itself. It can be a student in Berkeley University or in Europe. So sometimes the people in the diaspora, they face it more than the average Israeli. Fortunately, what we've saw in research that in Latin America, the situation is quite good comparing to North America and comparing to Europe. And it is interesting that also here you have a very strong Jewish identity, very strong Jewish communities, and they are able also to give serious answers to this challenge as a united community. The polls, I think the security situation is more relevant than the judicial reform, because we saw a decline because of the security situation, less because of the reform, if you follow the polls. And I think we have, let's say, the story is open with Hamas and with Hezbollah, and we still didn't respond as we should to the challenge and to the attacks that we're facing. And I hope, and I'm sure also, that we will give the answer. It will take time. We will give the answer. It takes more than 3 months to set a new strategy and to implement the changes that we want to make. It takes more than 3 months to create, for instance, the National Guard. And yes, the judicial reform itself is also component in the decline that we see in polls. There is a very strong campaign against the government, a campaign that I think also crossed red lines involving the military, encouraging pilots or other soldiers not to serve because of a judicial reform. We never had it before in this scale, where former prime minister or former chief of staff, you had the former prime minister Ehud Olmert calls for, was a prison in jail, who called for the leaders of the world to ban the state of Israel. So you have a prime minister acting like the last BDS supporter. You have Ehud Barak, who completely lost his mind, okay, and says we need to go into a rebellion against the government, and we need to say to the troops not to serve in the army if the judicial reform. Fortunately, the public is not with them, and you see in polls that the more radical left and the more, let's say, the more violent, the more aggressive approach is not popular. The polls shows that people want consensus. And yes, the Likud lost some mandates, not that much, by the way. Far right lost far more mandates. And the far left, including Yesh Atid, with Yair Lapid, who leads a very, very aggressive approach toward the government. Unfortunately, I think is irresponsible. But he's going to pay for it. And he's paying for it in polls. You can see it now. he is the head of the opposition formally, but in terms of political power and relevancy, is not really the head of the opposition. He's not relevant. We are one nation. We care a lot about what's going on in Jewish communities all across the world, especially as a Ministry of Diaspora. Some communities are more politically oriented. We see it in some of the communities in North America. Some are less into getting into inner Israeli politics. And we are okay with the two approach. Those who are criticizing government, they do it because they care about the state of Israel. We don't see it as they're doing something bad. And those who are saying we have unconditional, positive approach to the state of Israel, and we are not into politics of the state of Israel, that's also, we respect this approach as well. So we're okay with both of the approach, and we care a lot about what the Jewish communities have to say. And I think that here specifically, what I've learned in the meetings with the leaders of a community back in Israel and now, is that we have a very powerful community, very committed community, and I think it's a model not just for other communities abroad, but also for us in Israel. I want to mention one experience when I came to visit the school of Magen David, and you saw an exhibition that was made for the Holocaust Remembrance Day by students. Absolutely amazing. A small Yad Vashem that they've created, and they are bringing more than 500 non-Jews to visit throughout the year, and every year they will change the exhibition. It was so inspiring to see it. I just called the CEO of Yad Vashem. So you need to see what they're doing here in a small school in Mexico. So I think you are an inspiring community, and I'm very happy to be here. Feel very fortunate, and hopefully we're going to do great things together, empower Jewish education, Zionist education, and on the national field, maybe we will convince the government to adopt the IRA definition, which is a very, very important tool to fight anti-Semitism effectively.